Tips from Trestle, the Senior Living Food and Hospitality podcast, is brought to you by eMenu Choice Point of Sale and Clark Pro. Welcome to Tips from Trestle, the Senior Living Food and Hospitality podcast. This podcast explores the senior living industry with a unique focus on food, hospitality, and the community experience. I'm your host, Aaron Fish. My goal for this podcast: educate, inform, and inspire leaders in senior living. How? By bringing the resident and customer experience to the front of mind in our industry. We should bring the passionate spirit of food and hospitality to everything that we do and everyone we serve each and every day. So what are we waiting for? Let's get to it. Today on Tips from Trestle, I'm chatting with Fritz Brumder. Technology, especially AI, is transforming industries. Fritz stands out as a visionary leader to help organizations navigate this transition, especially within the senior living sector. As the co-founder and CEO of multiple technology companies and most recently WiseOx, Fritz has been instrumental in demonstrating how AI can be used for operations, enhance resident care, and streamline administrative tasks. Fritz, thanks for joining me today on Tips from Trestle.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Aaron.
Yeah, I am super excited. I am an AI novice, whatever you want to phrase it. There's probably a technical term for it, but I'm very fascinated. I use it as much as possible. We talked a little bit about like how I use it to help my podcast and developing show notes earlier before we got on. And so, but I'd love for you to talk a little bit about what you're doing with WiseOx kind of broadly and how you're helping apply AI to senior living.
Yeah, I've really dove into AI and spent a lot of time in the space. So I consider myself an expert level, but I'm able to simplify it and make it available to more people. That's part of our mission here at WiseOx. We're really on a mission to build human capacity and using AI obviously as a tool to do that. AI can be so useful to help reduce stress for workers, to help give them that extra crutch and that extra push to be able to get all the work done that they need to in a day. You know, for a decade or more and more work has been placed on individual shoulders. And we know that's probably most true in the senior living industry. And what really matters is not doing the administrative tasks, but actually delivering care and spending time with residents. So AI has a lot of opportunity to help companies spend more time with their residents. We've been working with a few partners like Sonida Senior Living, Civitas, Charter Senior Living, and Frontier Management in things like HR, state by state regulations, sales and marketing tasks, nutrition and menu development. And the advancements of AI and adoption of AI is really powerful once you get over the first two or three hurdles. So I'm happy to talk more about that today.
I'm very excited to talk about that. When I think about the approach that you guys take with they're not called avatars. What do you call them?
Yeah, we call them mascots. And the simple way to think about it is a trained AI. So in the world of, some people call them assistants or co-pilots. Chatbot is not really the right term. That's kind of a different thing. But
Yeah.
our version of a mascot means that it has contextual knowledge and information that is specific to you and your organization. So WiseOx is really a system for training an AI that can be customized and tailored and purpose built for your organization or your department.
When we looked at the mascots together on a call a few weeks back, I was really impressed with that approach because you can go and train these LLMs, the language learning models, to do kind of a broad stroke of this, right? You can go out and find a chat GPT or another version to do that. But to be able to have something that's really dialed in for you and your organization, I think makes a lot of sense because everybody has a different need with what they could use it for. And so in that vein, I'd love for you to maybe give us a couple of examples where you've worked with an actual operator and how successful implementation of your AI mascots and what kind of impact they had for them.
Yeah, one of the obvious use cases for us is HR and operations. So let's just take your handbook, which might include things like your PTO policy, or there's definitely special programs that every organization has to increase employee retention and employee benefits. Those programs are not in the knowledge base of the general internet or in the knowledge base of a large language model like ChatGPT or Perplexity or Gemini. And so what WiseOx does is load your employee handbook, load your standard operating procedures, load your policies and all of the documentation relating to HR into a trained AI. And then the mascot gets a name. Like we have one named Joy and Grace and Noel, like spelled Knowell. That's
Nice.
for Charter Senior Living. And these mascots then become dependable, reliable team members for the HR department, which is always overwhelmed, right? Staff
Yeah.
turnover and staff engagement and getting information into the end user's hands is really important. And AI is an incredible tool to do that. It can also do things like help employees brainstorm about what the benefits are. How can I maximize my 401k plan? What are my savings options? Is there a waiting period to get into my insurance? The AI is trained on all this stuff. And some of these basic questions, employees may be delaying because they have to set up time with their HR manager to be able to. It's not really a meeting type thing, but it's information that they need quickly. So the reason I share that example first is it's really top of mind information that makes sense why a trained AI with the context, if you compared side by side the mascots that we're building versus the response from ChatGPT, for example, ChatGPT would be a very generic response to that. And WiseOx mascot would be a very specific response to those types of questions.
Yeah. And this may be oversimplifying it, but it's almost like you see the meme of this meeting could have been an email, or there's the face to face, but you need something kind of in the middle, right?
Yes.
And this fills that void, right? It's more, you need more detail, more information than just a simple email, but you necessarily can't find the time to have that conversation face to face. So it kind of fills that
Yes.
gap.
There's also sometimes, we all have those team members that seem to know everything, but they get hit up all the time, right? You're like,
Yeah.
I want to go ask Aaron this question, but I don't want to feel stupid asking. I feel like I maybe asked it before, or Aaron gets hit up all the time because he's the guy that knows everything. Our vision at WiseOx is to create mascots that become that dependable, reliable resource. And AI doesn't get tired. AI doesn't get annoyed when you ask it the same thing two, three, four times.
Yeah.
And, and so that's employee knowledge and institutional knowledge and information about how to handle certain situations. If you fast forward that to more practical resident care situations, let's say it's food and nutrition, there might be a lot of built-in knowledge and experience with certain employees within the organization. If you can take that knowledge and help create an expert within the food and nutrition space within your community, then the the knowledge and information can get across the organization faster. So it's a little bit of training and a little bit of knowledge, information, and sharing.
I love you pointing out the opportunities in like the food service world, because I think if I'm a chef listening to this, I'm thinking AI I have no use for it right now. Like it's the administrative, it's those kinds of HR topics or whatever. Well, how does that apply in food service? And I always go to, well, what if I had a mascot on my point of sale tablet and a resident asks me, started this new medication? Am I able to have these food items? We know that there are interactions with medicines and food. Well, if your AI knows your menu well, understands the basics of nutrition, understands the medication, you can start asking those questions and can kind of help that server in the moment have a better interaction with the resident, as opposed to, well, I got to go ask the chef, or I got to go find the dietitian, or I got to go do this. And so I definitely in my mind, see all of the opportunities of how it could help that frontline employee be successful. So when I think about bringing in any technology, I've talked to point of sale operators, we've talked about different menu tools. There's always this concern around what does that adoption look like? What is the process for that? And so when you're thinking about an operator wanting to bring in an AI, what kind of advice would you give them to make sure that it's a smooth integration and that it's positive for the staff, for the residents, for everybody involved?
Technology continues to drive changes in senior care, and that includes food service. eMenu Choice is an award-winning point-of-service application for managing the dining function in senior living communities. This mobile, touchscreen-enabled software enhances the dining experience for residents while streamlining processes for staff. The flexibility and functionality of eMenu Choice makes it an effective solution for any type of senior living environment, from independent and assisted living to skilled nursing facilities. It works for production kitchens or restaurant-style service with options for per meal or a la carte pricing, and accommodates a variety of payments, including bill to account, meal credits, and credit cards. Created by a senior care provider with more than a century of experience serving older adults, eMenu Choice eliminates communication barriers between staff and residents while enabling person-centered choices and greater resident satisfaction. eMenu Choice, transforming dining for senior living.
The first piece of advice I have is don't sit on your hands. Don't let the fear of failure have you sit on the sidelines and be one of the laggards. We all know in any technology, there's going to be innovators that adopt very quickly. Then there's going to be the masses that sit in the middle, and then there's going to be the laggards. Definitely don't be in the laggard category. I think today with AI, we're still in the innovator and early adopter category.
Yeah.
So try to push yourself to be in that innovator and early adopter category, because it's okay if you fail. I think AI is going to be a decade-long technology adoption, just like some of the larger technologies that social, for example,
Yeah.
is a multi-decade technology transition that the first few people using Twitter with 140 characters, if you were in that category of people,
Yeah.
you probably have more knowledge and experience and context in social today, which is obviously really valuable because there's upsides and downsides to it, just like any technology. So the first thing I would suggest is just get in the game. Don't delay. The second thing is get the right tools and the right training and the right partners. So here at WiseOx, we really pride ourselves on not just providing the technology, but providing customer success, providing training tools. There's some really basic information that employees need in order to start leveraging AI. And it's simple stuff like, how do I ask the right questions? What is chain of thought prompting? So how do I interact with an AI over a period of time to get the desired result? With something like ChatGPT or more general based AIs, usually the answer is 85% there the first time. With more of a contextual trained AI, it's closer to 95%. But it's not perfect. No human is perfect, no AI is perfect. So employees need the skills in order to leverage the technology properly.
Yeah.
So that's the second thing, is get the training and get the right partner that can help support you along the way. The third thing is make sure that you're doing it safely and securely, and that you have a system that can keep track of how your employees are utilizing AI. In your nutrition example, it's probably not too high stakes, but it is information that you just don't want out in the ether that you have no control over. So
Right.
get a system and an AI that has some trackability and has some oversight from the company to the employees.
One of the sky is falling fears that people think about with AI is this, well, it's going to replace me. It's going to take jobs away. And we talked briefly before we hit record on this that that's really truly not what AI is going to do. And I'd love for you to expand on that a little more about how, if it's done right and it's implemented the right way, how it really truly gets to providing better and more personalized care for operators as opposed to, well, we're just going to eliminate 3 FTEs or something along those lines?
Yeah. Well, let's take a job in a category that's already kind of stressed for time and has multiple responsibilities. And it's sort of the executive director role at an individual community. Not only are they responsible for things like community activities and overall operations, but they're also responsible for sales and resident occupancy rates and stuff like that. So there's a lot on their plate already.
Yeah.
It would be great if they could have a helpful assistant or have a little bit of help in each one of those jobs that they're trying to juggle every single day. So with frontier management, we have started with the sales and executive director role. And we've given them the tools to be able to, first of all, we've trained the AI on sales and marketing information. So, what are the programs that we offer? How do we like to talk about our community? What is important to our residents and prospective residents? So, when you get an inquiry from a family and you need to provide information to multiple stakeholders within the family, that would take a long time to write all those emails up and do all that follow up. But if you have a trained AI that's a helpful assistant for you to be able to quickly talk about, they have a program for Spark called Spark, for example. It has a lot of Montessori based attributes to it. So the employee has to like think about that and write all that down. But whereas the AI can very quickly generate follow up content if the family is interested in learning more about that rather than just sending them to a link. But then on the flip side of that, because the AI knows about Spark and knows about community engagement and programs that they offer and the community calendar and stuff like that, it can help develop Halloween newsletters and calendar, give me some ideas of events that we can run. And that the trained AI is going to come up with things that are contextual and based on the past experience of frontier management. And so in that particular case, it's the helpful additional capacity that employees need in order to be happy in their jobs and not stressed out.
That's a great example of, like you said, it's a support of a role and a job and a task that's going to have to be done one way or the other, and it frees that executive director up to really focus on what they have to focus on hands on, which is the part that I get really excited about. And so,
Yes.
um, obviously, we're talking about all the great things that come with implementing and using AI, but I'm sure there are some challenges that you've seen trying to implement in senior living space. So, what are some of those, and what have you been able to do to kind of overcome those challenges you've seen?
Yeah. The first one is just where do we put this? Nobody wants another tool that they have to go to. It's another behavior that you have to learn. So one of the things that we're trying to do here at WiseOx is make the AI as transportable into the locations where people are spending their time already today. So that's embeddability and linking to the major software platforms. For a lot of our HR use cases, it's SharePoint. Intranet websites, SharePoint are places where the AI can be accessible. We're also looking at partnering with a lot of other technology companies within the industry to make our AI available inside of those tools as well. So accessibility is a key challenge that we're trying to overcome right now. And that all gets wrapped up in just our day-to-day behaviors and habits. And one of the things that I think is promising about AI is once the kind of light bulb moment goes off, once you're trained and you feel a little bit more comfortable with it, the time that it takes to make it a daily habit seems to be shrinking. And so that's exciting for us.
Yeah. And just like you said earlier about social media, is that the technology becomes more familiar, it's easier to access. Like it becomes more of part of your day and just kind of, it's like having your little assistant follow you around, which is nice.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. We
So
all deserve that.
for sure. As we wrap up here, a couple of just kind of quick hit points I want to make sure we hit on. You initially talked a little bit about privacy and data security. Is there anything specific that communities or operators need to know or think about when it comes to that?
Well, on the very front end of it, remember I talked about selecting the right tool and the right technology to be able to monitor. On the flip side of that, there is a high level of risk when employees are left to their own devices to use AI because people are using it. They're using it without their employees' knowledge if you don't have a system in place. And we have found that over 15% of the information that people are sharing in just a free system, because we know nothing's totally free, right? You're putting content into it. They're using that content to then train their models even more. That's a risk, right? The kind of content, 15% of the content employees are putting in is proprietary and sensitive in some way. And obviously the worst case scenario is more resident specific information or personally identifiable information. uh, that's a risk. And so if you're not proactive with it, then that's just naturally going to happen.
Good point. And so, kind of the last one, because AI is an evolving thing. I mean, we're not even like 2 years into the whole boom of AI at this point. How do you see AI evolving in senior living over like the next 3, 5, 7 years in the space?
Yeah. Well, first of all, right now, the big breakthrough that has happened with AI has to do with large language models and natural language processing. And basically, what that means is that the computer and the technology can understand more natural language. So you can ask the technology to retrieve information or to write language for you. That's why content creation is probably the number one use case of AI.
Yeah.
But if we start to fast forward a little bit, there's more actions and tasks that the AI is going to be able to do for you. There is now in the technology world, we talk about how to connect AI to different systems and creating a language that's more of a programming language for the AI assistant or the mascot in our case to be able to collect information and do more step by step tasks. So if you fast forward 5 to 10 years, and that capability is more widespread and more capable, then the AI is going to be able to do a lot more for the organization and for the employees, which is going to free up more time for the human to human interaction that we're really starving for in senior living, especially memory care. There's just the staff to resident ratio is way too low in most cases. And a lot of that has to do with we can't free up enough people's time because we have to have 5 to 10 operators behind 25 residents or something like that. The ratios are just off. And so I think the more we can utilize AI to streamline all the back end stuff, the more we can apply human to human on the front end.
I love that. So, excuse me. How can listeners connect with you, learn more about WiseOx and your mascots, and make their operations run smoother with AI?
Yeah. WiseOx.com, WISEOX.com is our website. We do have a free trial, so you can go in and create your own mascot, load in some of your own proprietary data, and it's really kind of a fun experience, actually. We've made it very simple and very user-friendly to do this. And you can load 2 to 3 documents into a mascot, and you'll start to see, wow, this thing actually is starting to sound like me. And how did it get that information? Think about it like the AI is able to, in real time, read through those 3 to 5 documents and provide an answer for you that is contextual to all the information that you trained it on. And then if you ask it to go off in these other directions, it's kind of going to stay within the bounds. So one of the cool things about WiseOx is it has like a guardrail system to keep the AI in line, so to speak. So that's a really fun experience. If you go to wiseox.com, set up a free account. I'm always available for other podcasts or helping collaborate with operators. I've done some speaking engagements at management team meetings and things like that. So you can reach out to me at Fritz, FRITZ, at wiseox.com.
Perfect. Well, Fritz, AI is just fascinating. I am sure that we'll have more conversations as we, evolve our use of it in senior living, and as we get more into the food and service side of of using AI. I think that really is intriguing to me. So I'm sure we'll do some follow-ups in the future. So thanks so much for joining me today on Tips for Trestle.
Sounds good. Thank you, Aaron.
So there it is, everybody. Another one in the books. Thanks again for tuning in. Please follow, like, and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. And be sure to follow us on social media at Tips from Trestle. You can also learn more about the work I do by following me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and even TikTok. And be sure to check out Trestle Hospitality Concepts at www.trestle. I'm your host, Aaron Fish, and this has been another episode of Tips from Trestle.